We are live, the Most High Show. My name is Christian, and I'm filling in for the host with the most, David Ja Cleope, because he got some family things he had to attend to. So tonight we're gonna have a good show for you. We got Defreeze coming on. He's a rapper, a person in sobriety recovery. He's been to 30 plus treatment centers since he was 15. We got the recovery rundown, where we're going to be talking about Suboxone, we're going to be talking about Narcan, we're going to be talking about the opioid epidemic. As you know, we're going to be touching on that in every episode. And joining me for that segment is my lovely wife, Leslie. All that's happening coming up on the Most High Show.
New rules easing the prescription of medications meant to relieve opioid addiction have just been announced. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is easing the guidelines on doctors and other health workers surrounding the prescription of buprenorphine. It's a medicine that helps with opioid withdrawals and cravings. The most common versions are Suboxone, naloxone, and Narcan. Acting Director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, Regina LaBelle, said removing barriers to quality treatment is a top policy priority for the Biden administration.
We have to modernize and make sure our approaches are responsive to current trends. In the United States, we're facing unprecedented levels of overdoses. On April 1st, we released President Biden's plan to address the addiction and overdose epidemic, which calls for modern solutions, such as expanding access to evidence-based treatment services and harm reduction services, and prioritizing racial equity.
The new guidelines mean doctors and other health workers will no longer need extra hours of training to prescribe Suboxone, and they no longer have to refer patients to counseling services. Because of how opioids act on the brain, people dependent on them get sick if they stop using. Cravings for the drug can be so intense that relapse is common.
Heroin derives its effects from being converted in the brain to morphine, which then binds to and activates the opioid receptors in the brain. The receptors are specialized proteins located on the surfaces of cells. Opioids latch onto the receptors and trigger effects in the cells. There are three types of opioid receptors: mu, delta, and kappa. Opioids that are either used for treatment or misused produce their effect primarily from binding to mu receptors. Activating these receptors can produce analgesic pain-killing effects, euphoria, sedation, dependence, respiratory depression, and more. The euphoric effect, and dependence in particular, may lead to addiction. Heroin is a full opioid agonist, which means that it binds to and fully activates opioid receptors. Other examples of full opioid agonists include methadone, codeine, and morphine. People who take opioids regularly, whether for medical reasons or illicitly, can develop a dependency on it. If they abruptly stop, they may develop uncomfortable withdrawal symptoms. Withdrawal can increase a person's risk of restarting opioids and overdosing.
Drugs like Suboxone and naloxone help by moving a patient from powerful painkillers or an illicit opioid like heroin to a regular dose of legal opioid-based medication. So what's the difference between these opioid-reversing drugs?
Well, James, naloxone is the generic name for the opioid-reversing medicine. Narcan is one brand name of the prepackaged nasal spray naloxone. Suboxone is the brand name for buprenorphine plus naloxone, all designed to rapidly reverse opioid overdose by binding to opioid receptors to block the effects of drugs like heroin, morphine, and oxycodone. The medicine is administered by nasal spray or shot.
So how do you get your hands on one of these antidotes, just in case?
Now, if you'd like to purchase naloxone, it's available at most pharmacies without a prescription. So it's pretty easy to get. The average price is around $100. Most pharmacy staff are also trained to show how the drug is given to someone who is overdosed.
So Melinda, if I'm broke and need naloxone or just want to have it on hand, what can I do?
Good news, James. Many communities are giving out free Narcan and naloxone to individuals who wish to have a supply of this life-saving medication. The easiest way to find local free Narcan is to contact your community health services or visit the National Institute on Drug Abuse at drugabuse.gov.
So this is the kit that Georgia Overdose Prevention will give out to you if you're in need of one. It's got instructions, and it's the kit and a number on the back to call if you use it. So real quickly, there's been a lot of people asking, how do you know if you need to give somebody one? It's real simple, and you don't have to worry about if you're unsure of what they've ingested. If they look like they're out, or if they're just out because they drank too much, this is not going to hurt them. So again, the question was, how am I going to know? Well, it's pretty obvious if somebody has passed out. If they're an overdose, they're going to be really unresponsive. You give them this, and don't worry if it's something else that's causing them to be asleep or passed out. It's not going to hurt them. It's just going to hydrate them.
All right. So that was a pretty in-depth breakdown. Leslie, what did you say about that? You said it was what?
About the Suboxone. I think that
You said it was a lot of stuff.
there's a lot of stuff about Suboxone. I've heard, people are at war with that because if you're on it, you're not sober, and if you're, if you're not on it, then you're clean and serene. Like something like that.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
So I think what happens when it comes to rehabilitation of an addict, right? There's different methods to do that. So there's the abstinence method, which is the 12-step method, is an abstinence program. You abstain from all drugs, right? I mean, unless it's medically prescribed to you, and then you got to use it as it's prescribed. But even that's kind of, everyone looks at you weird. But then there's another form which is called harm reduction. Harm reduction would be methadone or Suboxone.
Right.
So that's where somebody's not in the position to fully withdraw from the opioids and get the recovery. So what they do is they go on Suboxone or methadone because that's a safer alternative than going and buying dope off the streets from the dope man.
Right.
So you go to a clinic, you get your Suboxone, you get your pills for the week or whatever, and then you would take that.
But you would go to the doctor, right?
A doctor or clinic or detox center or
Right.
some treatment centers will put you on that kind of stuff.
I'm thinking like most of the people who are on Suboxone are not in rehab. Like they're off.
I don't think necessarily. It doesn't necessarily mean that. You know, I think, and some people will go on that for a period, like when they're beginning to get sober, right? Because if you're coming out of a situation where you were homeless or you were running the streets and you were doing all this crazy stuff, so it's like you kind of take steps towards that. So you start, rather than trying to kick heroin and go through that hard process, right? You get on something like a methadone or Suboxone to kind of satiate that.
Right.
While you're in treatment or while you're maybe in a sober living that provides that kind of accountability.
Yeah.
Then after a certain amount of time, ideally you would then get off it. I know someone who's been on methadone for 40 years.
Oh, okay.
That's probably not
40
ideal.
years? Yeah, 40 years is a long time. But I know that it helps people, right, to like get off of those, I'm going to say hard drugs because every drug is hard, but like especially ones like heroin mixed with other chemicals like fentanyl is really hard to get off of.
Right.
And if they've been in that kind of that kind of drug for a long time, it is harder for them to get off it. So having Suboxone, I think that if they wanted to live in a healthier way and Suboxone is available, I think that it's good. I think,
Well, yeah, I think it's a case by case, right? So,
right.
And I think it's harm reduction. So it is about getting that person where they're not buying dope on the streets, where they could potentially be getting a hot bag and getting fentanyl mixed in there and not knowing that or something like that. So it's harm reduction.
Okay.
But I've heard that the getting off of methadone and Suboxone is kind of difficult, as getting off any opioid is difficult.
Right.
So the other thing they covered in there, I think was two other things, which is Narcan. And so we did a Narcan project with Restoration Rotary. We went to North Philly and we distributed a bunch of Narcan with Suleiman, Soldiers for Recovery.
I remember that.
So the Narcan is That's an overdose prevention.
Right.
So when someone's overdosed, you hit them with the Narcan, that'll stop their overdose. And then I think the other thing they covered was the Good Samaritan law. And Good Samaritan law, it's a state-by-state basis, but here in Georgia, we have the Good Samaritan law. That means that if we were in a house and someone was overdosing, we could call 911, the EMT could show up, the police could show up, administer the Narcan, and we wouldn't be held criminally liable, right? They wouldn't check us. They wouldn't check, unless you had like a massive amount of dope on you.
Right. I was going to say, like, what if there was a paraphernalia of
But that's
all
what the
kinds
Good
of-
Samaritan law, and there's probably some caveats in there, but that's essentially what the Good Samaritan law. So all this is just ways of combating an opioid epidemic, which in 2020 killed a lot of people, you know, and
Right.
and in more in 2021. So it's just different ways of how to address that issue.
I think every family who has someone in, you know, who's struggling with addiction or even a recovering addict should have a Narcan in their house just in case, you know, and it should be free, right? I mean, you passed out the Narcan in Philly, and that was distributed, and that was free for them.
Yeah.
So it can be safe for them to use.
Well, we're trying to work on a project right now in Georgia where we're trying to get access and go into these high-risk areas and distribute the Narcan. But I think you're right. I think, like, yeah, if you have a loved one that is using it. But I don't know what I mean, in Philly, we didn't have any problem.
Right.
We just sent an email to a local official, and they gave us all the Narcan we needed. Here, we've had a little harder time getting our hands on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right.
It's nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go to break, and then Defrey's going to be here, and he's going to be, I don't think he's going to rap,
You
But-
never know.
but I never know. And we were sharing rap stories earlier. I think he was surprised by the Mansion Boys. Anyway, that's coming up, so check it out. In the meantime, check out this break.
Why Most High Media? Because I don't have the answers.
Right.
Other people do. And learning from the experiences, the stories, the perspectives, seeing people who've been through the darkest of circumstances and then have come out of it on the other side and have lived extremely exciting, fulfilling lives and tapped into a way of being and a way of living, but it's actually real and obtainable. That's why.
We packed up to tell the story of a young lady who lost her daughter.
So there's a extremely high correlation between suicide, mental illness, and substance abuse.
Come on the ground. Come on the ground. Sir.
I think as of this year, there's about 14 million people in America who have a co-occurring disorder, and a little more than 7% of them seek help for it.
You know, in my addiction, I felt like I was better off dead.
I'm here to talk about my daughter, Megan, who committed suicide when she was 28.
There's enough hope in the people that do recover to where I keep going and keep showing up at places where I'm needed.
Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high. Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high. Holla if you need some things like love and change. I'm not talking coins and things or diamond rings. Everybody wants some change, but don't nobody wanna do nothing till the pain they can't stomach. And they told me that I believed them, so I gave them to the. Everybody thought that I was tripping, saying that I be acting different. Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high. Ain't no high like the most high. All right. So our guest today is Defrey. He's a charismatic talented, skilled rapper. And he's also going to be sharing his story. He's been in 30 plus treatment centers since he was 15 years old. He's a dad. He loves life. And like he said, there's a lot in between, and we're going to get into it. So welcome, Defree, to the Most High Show.
Nice to be here, family. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you for doing it. I know we tried to do it a while ago, and it didn't work out, so it's really cool to have you on now and to get to meet you. And I feel like I feel like we get connected to kindred spirits a lot through Instagram. And the first conversation you and I had, I felt like, okay, this is a real one. So
nice. Yeah, I've been following you guys for a while. I love what you do, and it's important, man. You know, it's important to in recovery to be like filling your universe with recovery, you know, just to have it kind of fresh and just around, you know, because it's a disease of forgetfulness.
Shoot. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And, you know, and I think it helps being of service, keeps me in line, and it keeps us in line if we can stay with that mindset. So what we usually like to do is start off with kind of what your life is like today. I know you say you're a dad, you're pursuing, wouldn't say you're pursuing, you are doing this rap thing. So
yeah,
tell me a little bit about like what's a day in the life of Defree today.
Man, life today is simple, and that's not by accident. So right now I live in sober living. I'm like back into sober living once again, but it's good, man. It helps me. You know, I got like 4.5 months sober right now.
Okay, congrats.
But you know, I got today. I'm sober today. You know. And I had a good day today, right? I played with my son. I went to my niece's basketball game. I went to grandma's house for chili with the family. I was invited to grandma's house, you know, which was not the case a few months ago, right?
Yeah, right.
I do weddings. Like I set up beach weddings. I work for a small company. I'm like the only employee, and I drive the van around and put the chairs and build the arches and attach the flowers to it and make the people's weddings all pretty. It's a really simple job. And I chose to kind of step back from, you know, making a bunch of money and advancing professionally, because the last couple times I've done that, like I usually successful pretty quickly in career, and I get a lot of people find that I can do a good amount of quality work, so they keep putting it on my plate, and then I don't say no.
Yeah.
And I don't stop taking care of myself, and job and money becomes my higher power and priority, and then I relapse and I blow my life up.
Yeah.
And this is my pattern. So I'm just kind of, you know, like not in a rush to not in a rush, man. I'm like, I got a simple job. I live in sober living, you know, and life is good, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Make music, you know, I got a bunch of dope projects coming out, but I'm not in a rush with that either. You know, the timing on that it's just where it fits in around like my recovery and my family and my AA meetings, and you know, and that's a part of my life, and it's not, I'm not trying to force that either, you know?
Right. So, you know, it wasn't always like this, right? Living a simple life, being in a structured environment, right? It sounds pretty cool though, setting up weddings at a beach, you know, and seeing your son. So you're living a good life, but it wasn't always like that. And I know that, you know, when we talked before the show, you know, we want to kind of talk through, because you've had a relapse, you know, and talk through, because that's a reality of this disease in this life, is people, they don't get it right the first time, and it takes multiple tries, right? So let me ask you what I would ask anybody, which is, what's different today than from the last time you attempted to get sober?
Yeah, that question comes up a lot. And I think the answer is, I think maybe just a little more respect for this disease I'm working with. You know, I needed, because it's a progressive disease. Like, my relapses are really scary. You know, like I take a lot of drugs in a small period of time, and I, you know, end up in a hospital within, like, you know, a few hours to a couple of days. Like, that's where I go, right? So I you know, and every time it's like, basically, yeah, I have more respect for my disease and what it's capable of. So I'm like I said, I'm not in a rush to move out of sober living. I have some more willingness to do my step work and you know, make those tough amends and call my sponsor and do some of the stuff that, you know, I wouldn't really do unless I absolutely have to. But the thing is, I absolutely have to, because I am a drug addict.
Yeah.
I am a real one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, it's honorable, you know, for you to be open and transparent at this stage. And I think it's so helpful for people to hear that, right? Like, because it isn't always just like this. I'm up to this point, right? I'm a one chipper, but that's just up to this today, right? That could go away at any moment, right? And that's the reality of the disease. And I think that there's a misconception that it's like that it's got to be done perfectly, right?
Right.
And it's not. So, where do you want to start? I mean, I know that you said you did have some extended clean time. You know, where do you want to start with this journey and this process?
So yeah, I think I'll kind of real quick, I'll start maybe real young and then jump ahead.
That's cool.
You know, for me, you know, just always like craved things, right? I think I found out my first drug was adrenaline. You know, I just did stuff to get. I didn't know, when you're young, you're not aware of what the reason why you're doing things. You can't think like that. I just did some crazy stuff, you know, and I learned later it was for adrenaline. It was like an escape. You know, vandalism and setting fires and just some stupid stuff like stealing, shoplifting, and you know, when I was in high school, I was like honor roll on the basketball team. Within smoking weed for the first time, like 6 months later, I had like been expelled from school, and my parents were shipping me off to like a wilderness program in Utah. Because I just immediately wanted more and more, and that became the priority, and I just stole and cut class, and it just happened real fast for me, my downfall. And it's interesting. I remember some drug counselor I got sent to see was like, you know, at the time, and that was just off weed. Like, I was just smoking weed and drinking, and I blew my whole life up, you know? And I remember a drug counselor being like, yeah, man, you're going to like go to jail a bunch of times and like be like a heroin addict shooting like heroin with needles, like an IV drug user. That's going to be your story, and you might like overdose and die. I was like, dude, you're absolutely crazy. You don't know me. How could you even say that? Like, I like smoke some joints. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And he was right, man. So long story short, I mean, I moved to Los Angeles, actually started in Orange County, but Southern California, my problems came with me. Yeah. You know, and had some good times, some good friends, but it's just, you know, I'd bounce around. I was like, you know, really just living in sober livings, trying to not get high, but I kept getting high, and I got into heroin out there, and you know, it just bouncing around, man. I mean, you know, just disappointing, like just lying, and like I didn't realize this, but like I was just destroying like my sense of like self and self-esteem, like with each lie I told, which each relapse, like, scam I pulled. And I found myself like years later, I was like 26 years old, and like no one wanted me in their life. Like, my girl broke up with me. My parents didn't answer my phone calls. My sister didn't answer my phone. Like, nobody wanted anything to do with me. And I had like this gnarly infection in my arm from a dirty needle. And I like got hospitalized because like they had to like take out a big chunk of my arm. They like almost had to amputate my arm. And I was like in this hospital, and I like convinced them to give me a bunch of like benzos and opiates. And on top of that, I was like sneaking out of the hospital and stealing vodka from Ralph's and like pounding it, and then going back to the hospital and just like pissing the bed and like not remembering what happened and just like crying. Like I couldn't deal with my feelings because I felt so bad. Like,
yeah,
it was like the lowest low, and I didn't know what to do. And I had like health insurance. I made a phone call. Some guy picked me up, took me to rehab, and like I had been to so many rehabs and like kind of tried it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I had wanted to be sober. I just like wasn't willing to like do the work necessary for that to be the case, right? And for the first time in my life, I like gave this thing like a full shot.
Yeah. And that was when you were 26. That was a few years ago.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So take me back to stealing vodka from Ralph's from the hospital, because I need to know, like, did you like put your clothes on and then leave and then come back and put the gown back on? What was going on? How did you do that?
Yes, I did. I did do that. Yeah. And then I'd like take a Panda Express cup out of the trash because it was right next to Ralph, and just like walk through the store and just like pour. I shouldn't be giving people this hack. Like pour the like vodka in the Panda Express cup, and then just like then put it back on the shelf and just like be sipping it out of this like Panda Express cup.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, what I've found is most addicts are very resourceful, and we have a tendency of getting what we want.
Right.
And it's not only an addiction. I see when people get sober and stick to it, that same resourcefulness, that same ability to manifest things out of nothing and turn things into something is there. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So that kind of hustle is always there. So you went to this rehab, you went to this treatment, and this was the first time after hitting this bottom where you felt like, okay, I need help. And you reached out for help on your own.
Yeah, I had reached out for help. I didn't even remember doing it, but some guy picked me up at the house, came to pick me up, and took me to this rehab.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And I was like, dude, I was like super depressed when I was there. I was like, and dude, I was like, I knew I was so depressed, and I was like, yo, like, I'm gonna kill myself, or I'm gonna like leave here, get high, and then kill myself. Like, I can't feel like this is unbearable. Or the third option is to like feel better. So like, if I'm gonna feel better, I have to do something differently so I feel differently.
Yeah.
A couple of things kind of stuck in my head, so I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna give this my full shot. And I like, dude, I was like, I started like just doing push-ups and running up the hill, and when it was group time, I'd like wear like my nice collared shirt and like tuck it into my pants, you know what I'm saying, and like brush my hair and like be clean for group, you know what I mean? And just like try my best, and like I would help with chores, and like just like I was like, I'm going to be like, I need to do something, right? Yeah. And like, dude, within a couple of days, like I started feeling good. Yeah. It was crazy, and I was like, this is crazy, and so I kept doing it, and then like a month went by, then I was like, yo, can I stay another month? They're like, sure. And I stayed another month. and which was the first time I always wanted to get out of there, you know?
Yeah.
And when I was there, I made up my mind. I was like, you know what? Like, I have a lot to offer, and I'm not going to work crappy jobs that I don't like for not very much money anymore. I'm going to do something I enjoy and be like paid appropriately and be valued. And I got into working with kids. So I got a I put that in the universe, and then it just worked out. I got a reference to a group home to work with kids at a group home, girls group home in Hollywood. And that kind of started me down that path of helping, of kind of working with people, you know, helping people. And dude, I loved it. And I was hungry, man. I was staying in this, I was going to outpatient and staying in this sober living in like Reseda. And I had to be at work at 6 a.m. in Hollywood. And it was a 10-hour shift. We did 4 10-hour shifts. And so I would have to be up at like out the door at like 4:35, catch the orange line to the red line, and then like walk down Hollywood Boulevard, like you know, with all the stars were all like,
I know it. Yeah.
Like character.
Yeah.
Right there. And it was this big pink mansion, this old movie star mansion that had got transformed to his girls group home. It was called Aviva. And I worked there. And I worked there for like over a year. And
you stayed sober during that time?
I stayed sober, man. I was hungry, dude.
Yeah. What about music during this? Like when you're getting high, are you also making music, or is music?
Yeah.
You do. Okay. So it doesn't affect your ability to create.
It's honestly probably the thing that kept me alive, you know?
Music.
Like making music. It kept me, I did it when I was homeless on the street. I'd, you know, be like writing music to like 2 a.m, you know what I mean? Like, and I did it, you know, but, you know, the drugs definitely affected my music and the things I was thinking about and saying, but it didn't affect my love for it.
Yeah.
It was kind of, anyways, but yeah, man. So I just kind of stuck with it. But you know, when you're getting high, you can't, you know, and you got a dope habit, you can't really, don't have a lot of money to do
studio
things,
time,
people
right?
Around a lot,
right.
Yeah. So when I got sober, that was when I was able to really kick the music stuff into gear and actually start doing something positive, like making moves with it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, like when you're in the creative process of writing and recording, and I'm just trying to see, like, when you contrast that process of writing and recording sober as opposed to writing and recording high, what's the difference in that creative process for you internally when you're doing it?
Man, I think the stuff I make is better when I'm sober. That's it. You know? And that, especially like the next day, or even years later, I can look back, and if I'm sober in a good headspace, I'm like, yo, that shit was dope.
Yeah.
If I'm all fucked up, you know what I mean? I remember like nights, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm a genius. I'm like writing a screenplay. I'm like, dude, this movie, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm all twacked out, right?
Right.
And then, like, dude, I look at this shit the next day. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is this? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know that. Yeah. So sober, there's a flow that's happening, and the music seems to stand the test of time, and the creative, the work stands the test of time more.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. So you're living in Hollywood. You're doing this. You're living your best life. You're recording music. You're helping people. I mean, you know, you're in the greatest city on the planet. It's my humble opinion. Everything's going.
Yeah.
What happens?
Dude, I just want to say first of all, so like this, the magic happened, bro. Like, you know what I'm talking about, and like for people who are like new in recovery, man, like, yo, it's crazy. Stick with it. If you stick with it and really try to do the deal, bro, like, it sucks. It's hard at first, but around like 6-9 months, bro, a year, like shit just starts, like the universe starts working for you, and just like good things happen to you, and like blessings come into your life. And it's crazy how that works when you're in recovery. And it's happened every time I did this thing for real. Yeah. So basically, life's great, man. I got my girl back. You know, I'm working at this group home. I get a whip, move out of that to a different sober living, a little closer. And then, so at work one day, like basically I got fired from my job. I took the kids cliff jumping in Malibu.
Okay.
And one kid got like, she got something in her eye, made a big deal about it. And I got fired for like endangering the kids or whatever.
Okay.
So that was kind of like.
So no cliff jumping for the girls at the group home.
Say that again.
No cliff jumping for the girls at the group home.
No cliff jumping for the girls at the group. Don't take kids cliff jumping. That's immoral.
Okay.
Right.
But that speaks to like your kind of natural wild nature. You're looking for adventure. I'm sure that these young girls are looking for adventure too, and that's like it's a holistic adventure. It's a little dangerous, but it's like, you know, these girls aren't like you know, they want to have some fun too, right? And so showing them how to have fun without drugs, without alcohol, without, you know, criminal behavior, right? So to you, it made perfect sense, right?
Exactly. That was some good, wholesome fun. But, you know, in retrospect, you know, bureaucracy, whatever. But the point is, I get suspended, and then a couple days later, and I'm not really tripping. I'm like, yo, like, this is your loss. Like, and the girls, like, I've been really good at this job, and whatever, like, it'll work out. I wasn't even really tripping, you know?
Yeah.
So I get suspended, and then they call me in, they fire me, and I remember, dude, I'm like, got my last check, and I'm like driving back on like crossing Mulholland, like back to the valley from Hollywood, and my phone rings. And it's my old rehab I went to, and they're like, hey, like, do you need a job? Like, we'd love to hire you.
Wow.
And I was like, this is 20 minutes after I got fired, bro. And I'm just like, actually, yeah, sure. That sounds great, you know? And so I moved to Orange County, started working in recovery as a house manager and just like a tech in a rehab, got promoted. I was a case manager at this outpatient treatment center in Huntington Beach, running the sober living. Excelled at it because my heart was in the right place. And then my sponsor at the time had a sober companioning business. And he had been trying to hire me, and eventually the time was right, and I said, sure, man, let's do it. So I moved back to LA and started working as a sober companion. And
what's a sober companion? Break that down for
I mean, it's different for different situations.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's like, you know, it's really for people who, like, CEOs or like rock stars will hire a companion if they got to like go on tour, or CEOs going somewhere on business. Like, yo, stay with me. I don't want to be alone in this hotel. Like, the house, someone to make sure they don't like do drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
Or drink. And rock stars do that.
Yeah.
You know, on tour. And those are situations. Sometimes people need to be transported to a rehab. Hey, this rehab's in Colorado. Like, take Johnny to the airport and make sure he gets there okay. Right.
Right.
Then there's other situations which are more long-term for people with like, who are really challenged, right? And I was in a maintenance case with a gentleman who just was challenged, right?
Yeah.
And so most of the time the goal is to like help these people get healthier to the point where they no longer need companionship, right?
Right.
And that was not the case. Here it was just keep dudes safe.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And anyways, that was like, dude, it was cool, man. It was like a cool opportunity. Was able to move my chick to LA. We got a pad. I was making really good money. And with that money, I like got to do a lot of really cool things with music. Like the music started taking off because I was like able to, pump it. And, like I said, I was making a lot of money, and that became really important to me.
Yeah.
More important than other things in my life. And so the pattern kind of showed itself once again after about a year, a little over a year, man. I was about 3 years sober. And my buddy was like, we were on a shoot. It was late. He's like, yo, I'll take this Gab pen and it helps me like stay up. It's like Gab pen's like a mild drug used for certain things.
Yeah.
And he's like, and so I was like, I knew better, but I took it.
Yeah.
And then I took a couple more and I felt really good. It wasn't like super messed up, but like basically, but as an addict, like one is too many, right? Thousands is never enough. Like I took it, I liked it, I wanted more. I started taking them every day, dude.
Right.
Were
you involved in during this time, right? Because you're a sober companion, so you're working in recovery, and But did you have your own program outside of your job that you were involved in during that time?
I did. I was only off 3 days a week. So I usually hit like one meeting on those 3 days.
Right.
Right. Because it was like, I worked 4 days straight.
Right.
So I'd go hit like one or two meetings, call my sponsor, who's my boss. So I wasn't really telling him like the truth.
Right.
Wasn't really praying, wasn't really reading the book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you started taking your will back and living your life. But also so you're somewhat involved in the program, and I think a lot of people who are in recovery and working in recovery, because they're working in recovery and they're always around it, right? It can be, I know this for myself, right? It can kind of trick me into thinking that I'm in recovery, right? But I have to I still got to take myself out of my work and go to meetings and go and engage in my own recovery, because when I'm working recovery, it's not the same as my own
For
process.
Sure.
Yeah. Was that a little bit of that going on with you because you were working in it? You felt like your life was about recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little cocky. You get a little cocky.
Right. Yeah.
So
the gabapentin starts the addiction back up.
Yeah. Eventually I started doing drugs. I lied to myself, like, oh, so I haven't really relapsed. I'm just doing these things. It's not really a relapse. But at some point I was honest. I was like, yo, I'm getting high. I might as well actually get high, and started doing drugs. And I got, fired from my job eventually, Yeah. And came out, comes out in the wash. It always does. Right. Yeah. And it just, and it's crazy. Like that just started, dude, it's so hard to get sober.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was just like in and out of rehabs. Like I was living this side. So I'll just tell you that, I got fired from my job. One of my, I was still trying to figure it out without completely my life blowing up. And then one of my friends called, basically one morning my parents showed, I hear a knock on the door. It's 9 a.m. My parents are standing outside. And I just knew it was over because they live in Indiana. So they're knocking on my door in Van Nuys, California.
Yeah.
They know.
They came to get you.
And man, went to rehab, dude, and I just couldn't get it, dude.
Yeah.
Just couldn't get it again, man.
Right. Well, like you said, getting sober is hard. So we're going to continue with the rest of your story. We're going to break to a commercial break for a new show that we got dropping tomorrow night, Friday night, January 28th, depending on when you're listening to this, called the Montana Society. This is about 4 addicts who go and renovate an underground bunker in Montana and all the craziness that ensues with all of that. So we're going to run that clip, and then we're going to come back and we're going to wrap up with Jeffrey right here. Most High Show. Montana Society, an inspiring docuseries about a group of addicts who endeavor to repurpose an underground nuclear bunker in Paradise Valley, Montana. Along the way, they learn to work together under the wild leadership of Dean, a financial guru and outdoorsman who has his money on the line. In the end, will they learn to repurpose their pain and the bunker into something new and wonderful? Find out on this season of the Montana Society. All right. That was the Montana Society. It's coming to the Most High Media app and on Stir TV. It's a pretty gnarly project. Really proud of it. 10 episodes, and but we're back with Jeffrey, and just to catch everybody up to this point. You know, you were living in Hollywood, living the life, and you started with gabapentin. That kick-started the addiction back up, and your parents come knocking on the door saying, we're going to do this thing again with you, and they're going to help you again and help you to start getting help. But you're saying that once you tried that again, it was hard to get the magic back, so to speak.
Yeah, dude, it was tough. You know, I went to rehab, got out, and my wife's sticking by my side. I'm going to a meeting. On the way to the meeting, I pick up a beer, just trying to do it, but not really fully in it. But I want to be sober, but I can't stay sober, right? Just in it. I mean, and this is the worst part about that place is like, dude, years go by.
Yeah,
like you don't progress as a person. You know what I'm saying? In and out. Like time's going by, man.
Yeah.
So like. That kind of went on for like a year and a half maybe, and then my wife got pregnant, and she's like, "Yo, like I'm moving to be with my family because like you can't keep your shit together, so like get better and like come see me in Florida when you're ready," And I decided I signed up for like a longer term program because I knew I needed help. Did it, moved to Florida, moving in with my wife. My son was born. That was beautiful. I was doing really well.
Yeah.
Got a job working with kids again. That was awesome. Got promoted again. Now I'm program director. And I'm really busy. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of, if I'm honest, I'm like, I'm like program director. I'm like doing so good. I got so important. I'm so important now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You already know what happened, bro. I relapsed.
Yeah.
I wasn't working program, and it just happened, man. I relapsed. And
how long was that run for this last relapse?
It was short, dude. It was like 4 days.
Okay. Well, that's definitely progress, right? I mean, because usually your runs would be a lot longer, right? So,
yeah, man.
So, and you have some other factors now, right? You have a child, a son, right?
Yeah,
and that means something. And then you have your wife who's committed and loving and encouraging you, and so you have some factors in your life now to where the relapse that relapse feels different now. Is that correct?
I don't know, man. I mean, my son is motivation. It is motivation. He is motivation. My wife and son are motivation, but they can't keep me sober.
Mm-mm.
I have to do the work to stay sober. There's only one thing that can keep me sober, and that's my relationship with a higher power.
Yeah.
And coupled with my participation in Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And showing up for myself on a daily basis. That, if people loving their family can keep them sober, there'd be a lot less broken families right now.
Right.
If people love their families. It's a disease, man.
Yeah, man.
So, but yeah, man. I mean, like basically, my boss said, "Hey, get better and come back." And I thought about it. I said, "Man, I got to do something different this time, and slow down, take a different approach to this deal. Put my recovery first. You know what I'm saying? My health, and then my family, and just kind of live for a second, And that's where I'm at, man. That's where we are today.
Yeah, man. Well, again, I want to thank you for being so honest and open and transparent about your journey up to this point and your willingness to share at this stage in your recovery, right? Kind of restarting, coming back from an ass kicking, but you're willing to share. And, like you said, you still got some music projects coming out. So you're still pursuing music. So let's just talk a little bit about, and then we'll wrap up about this, this kind of internal process of kind of getting success and then relapsing, right? Like, there's a lot of language that talks about the ego, right? And that the ego and the taking the will back, right? It's like, who cares to admit complete defeat, right? And so once we start getting things back and start winning again, it's almost like we forget that, God was the one that got us to the position to start winning again. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so we begin to start running on that self-will again. And what's tricky about the ego and this whole thing is when you're running on self-will, it looks like everything's going well, right? Because everyone around you, society and our culture is going to reward you and look at you like, all right, you're doing the thing, right? But I think like for alcoholics and addicts, like we're extremists, and so we like to live in a certain way. And when we begin to take that will back and it looks good, we start running on self-will, and that's when we become very susceptible to the cunning bafflingness of the disease, where it can sneak in.
100%.
Yeah.
The disease, it uses those things against us, which aren't even bad. It's not bad to like want to be successful professionally,
right?
Like, and ambitious. Like, that's not a bad thing. But like, my disease will use that to get his foot in the door.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's absolutely it's cunning and baffling, my friend. But so definitely the ego is like, dude, it is tricky, and it's what's been really interesting on the spiritual journey for me is like just how like there's just like universal spiritual principles. It's almost just like math of like how like all religions, like principles of all religions and in AA, right?
Right.
Of just like how like destruction of ego is like part of it. Like that's how to be connected with God. Like humility is important.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. The best example that I've had analogy about the ego, right, is this horse and buggy scenario. Okay. Where you got the guy in the horse and buggy scenario, you got a guy who's sitting on top of the buggy and he's the one with the reins on the horse, right?
Yeah.
Then you got the person who's inside the carriage. The person inside the carriage usually is the owner of the carriage. And the person in the carriage is the one who's determining the destination. But the one who's sitting up on top with the reins in his hand and, guiding the carriage starts to think, oh, I'm in control. Right?
Yeah.
And so what's required every once in a while is that person in the carriage needs to stick their head out and say, hey, I didn't say to go down this road, right?
Right.
Because there's like a connection, a symbiotic relationship between the divine self or the high self and the ego, right? Or the spiritual self and the ego. That when the ego is right sized, it can be used to get the spirit where it needs to go, right? As opposed to completely destroying the ego, which is hard to exist on this earth without some sense of an ego, right?
Right.
And so once I heard that illustration, it really helped me to understand that there's got to be a relationship, but my ego's got to be in check by my spirit daily, right? Daily, I got to put that boy in his place. Otherwise, he'll take over. And for me, I always share this is I don't need to get high to ruin everything. I can burn everything down with a few choice words.
100%.
So I don't even need drugs to make a mess of everything. So
Dude, the other day,
yeah, go ahead.
The other day, I'm working right on the beach. I'm like, sometimes it's just beautiful. The sun setting is cool. I'm just looking at stars. I'm feeling very, very spiritual and connected, right?
Right.
And my wife gives me a call, and I ask her a question, and she, instead of giving me an answer, she says, we'll see. And I'm like, what do you like? I was just like, all right, whatever, bye. Right. And I was just like, and that started like a whole fight. You know what I mean? And it was because it's like, who are you to like not give me like a more respectful answer? Like, don't you know who I am?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're out here like, you know what I'm saying? We'll see. You'll say we'll see to me. Are you kidding? It's like, and it's just dude. It just comes in just like that, man.
Yeah.
And I realized, you know what, man? I haven't been to a meeting in a few days. I didn't say a prayer today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, here I am, just popping off on wifey, causing problems, completely sober.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, we just kind of do this final thoughts. So what would you want to say? And I think you're in a very tender position of being, 4 months in to restart on this journey. What do you have to say to someone who's out there who might be considering this way of life and stuck right now?
Wow. I'll just say, wow, that's interesting. You know what, man? To be honest, dude, I don't do that anymore. I can't get anybody sober with my word, with my words. When they're ready, they'll come, they'll listen, they'll have willingness, because they'll see the success around them and they'll be open to that, And that, to me, honestly, has been such a gift in my life, man. Like, I stopped trying to like force what I want to happen. You know what I mean? I force my, mom to talk to me in a certain way, or, my coworker, my wife to not, respect me the way I want, and my friends to do what I say, my business associates to finish the project on time. It's like, yo, like people are going to do what they're going to do. Right.
Yeah, man.
And I think, to me, that's okay. Just know that like we're here and we love you, man. You got a safe place when you're ready.
Yeah. I love it, man. And I appreciate it, man. And this is, David used the term last week that the servant seat, right? The seat that you're in right now, virtually connecting, is a servant seat. You're serving the community by sharing your story. And so I really appreciate that, man. And I hope we stay in contact. And next time I'm down in Florida, I'm gonna come look you up, bro.
Dude, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I feel good right now, man.
Good.
I feel connected, and I love the work you guys doing. And thanks for giving me an opportunity to be of service.
All right, that's it, man. This is the most. Go ahead.
Batman comes out March 4th. Batman comes out March 4th. Tune in. It's a movie.
Oh. Wait, is it your Batman? Is this a song?
My song Batman and music video, we're dropping it on the same day as the real Batman.
Oh, snap. Now, okay, well, hold on. Let's just talk about this, because you had this song called Dad Bod.
Yeah.
That was fire, bro. I wanted to show you that love. So I love that you're getting concepts. You got videos that go with the music. The creative expression is beautiful. Keep doing it, man, because we need that smile on your face. And when you're rapping, man, it's like we all feel it. So keep doing your thing, man. Appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, and if you're big and you rock a dad bod, rock that motherfucker. You look sexy, dude. Don't feel bad, man. Rock that bitch.
It's me right there, bro.
Hell yeah, dude. Chicks dig it, bro. Chicks dig it, too.
That's right. 20 years and rolling. All right, this is the Most High Show. Thank you, my guest. And thank you for Leslie for joining. Thank you for Jeff on the ones and twos, holding it down like a real producer. Check us out on themosthighmedia.org. Cop the shirts, no high like Most High. And we love you, and we'll be there for you if you need it.